Let me share my presentation. Can you hear me? Okay, so let's start. I'm Yijia from biology department. So what I'm going to talk about today is not about individual courses that we are going to offer you, but instead we will talk about knowledge and technologies that you are going to learn if you are a student, if you become a student. So our department, we have two programs, and one is applied biology. The other one is agriculture and natural resources. So these two major programs are highly related. Many of courses for these two programs is shared. Now, first of all, I would like to say that modern biology is interdisciplinary. So biologists use knowledge and technologies developed by other fields, such as chemistry, physics, computer sciences, and engineering, and others. And we use these kind of knowledge and technology to solve biological problems. In biology, we are going to learn about differences in individual organisms, and these differences such as different color, skin color, or hair color, or other kind of traits. And these kind of differences are because of differences in genes, in DNA. Now, DNA does not directly control these traits, but DNA can control production of mRNA. Each gene can produce mRNA, and mRNA can produce a protein, and then proteins are responsible for these kind of traits. For example, some people have a straight hair, some have a curled hairs. That is because the differences in proteins in hair. Some people have this kind of proteins in hair that are more straight, and some have proteins which will be curled like that. So so this is called molecular biology. So you are going to learn how genes control this kind of trait by controlling production of mRNAs and proteins. In addition, you are also going to learn about interactions of living organisms with each other and also with environments. And we call this ecosystems. Some of these interactions are beneficial, but some interactions could be harmful. For instance, in our body, there are a large number of microorganisms. Most of those are in guts, and some of these organisms living in our guts are beneficial or useful for our health, but there are also harmful bacteria and other organisms living in our gut. So we have scientists who are working on this kind of interactions, and this kind of interaction can be affected by what we eat. So we can choose food which can help for improving the population of microorganisms in gut to improve our health. some interactions between human and microorganisms could be really harmful or deadly, like interactions, like infections of human bodies by COVID-19. So I'll give you a couple of examples about how we used the knowledge and technologies to fight against this COVID-19. Very soon, in a couple of weeks after the outbreak occurred, scientists immediately identified the cause of this human disease, and they solved the structures of the viruses, and from the structure, scientists can tell what is this the causing organism or the virus. And also very soon, scientists learned the genes in the virus, which leads to production of this kind of proteins, particles. So this kind of technology, like this machine, which can solve the structure of viruses, is also available in our university. And then many of you have been tested for the COVID-19. Mostly it's about nucleic acid testing. And for that, the samples can be collected, and then the nucleic acid present in viruses can be detected by a technique called PCR. So that is the most commonly used method for testing COVID-19 virus. So again, our department have a couple of this kind of machines. So we can also do this kind of testing. And then based on the knowledge learned from initial study, and scientists also figured out how the virus infect human cells to kill human cells. And these kind of knowledge then was used also for developing treatments, and also in particular the vaccine that can prevent infection. So in Hong Kong, there are two types of vaccines. One is the inactivated virus. That vaccine was developed by a couple of companies in the mainland China. And many of you have been giving the mRNA vaccine. So for inactivated viruses, when it is injected into our body will have immune cells that recognize mainly proteins on the surface of the dead viruses. And then we can produce antibody. And then later, if someone gets infected, the antibodies can then help to kill the infected viruses. For mRNA vaccine, mRNA is injected into human bodies, and then mRNA will lead to production of a protein that is very similar to the viral protein. So then again, the protein can be recognized by immune cells to produce antibody. So these are kind of the knowledge that you are going to learn when you are taking courses, some courses if you are majoring in biology. So these days, a lot of effort have been focused on preventing the COVID-19 and also providing treatment for COVID-19. But there are a lot of other questions that need to be solved and answered. So for example, we also study about how memory is made and stored and recorded, although we are just in the very beginning stage of understanding these kind of phenomena. Also, there's a lack of treatment or the ways to prevent cancer, heart diseases, metabolic disorders, aging. So these are also the fields being understudied by scientists. So you are also going to learn about these kind of knowledge and the technology if you are majoring in biology. So now I'm going to switch to talk a little bit about modern technology and agriculture. We know that agriculture is old science. Right? Human beings have been growing crops for several thousand years or 10,000s of years. However, in modern agriculture, we also use very advanced technology to increase crop production. Some of you might have heard about so-called green evolution. That happened about 70 to 80 years ago. Now, traditionally, the crop plants are very tall. But then 70, 80 years ago, many scientists led by Dr. Norman Borlaug, they developed crops that are much shorter. Now, those tall crops have a problem like this kind of phenomenon. If they are tall, they often will fall, and that leads to a crop loss. So those scientists develop shorter plants, and that leads to an increased crop yield. And the farmers can also use more fertilizer to increase crop production. And so Norman Borlaug was awarded with a Nobel Peace Prize, and because he saved millions of people from starvation. There are some problems. The green evolution is not perfect. One problem is that farmers used too much fertilizers. That can lead to environmental pollution, and fertilizer like nitrogen fertilizer can emit greenhouse gases, causing the global warming. So now we are talking about a new generation, a new green evolution. New green evolution will make agriculture more sustainable, make it more environmentally friendly. There's still a challenge for food production because the population is still increasing. So farmers need to produce more in future to feed the world. But we need to use less natural resources and chemicals to make our food safer, healthy, and also more environmental friendly. So we need to use modern technology and knowledge to solve this challenge. For instance, we need to develop crops which can produce more but use less water, fertilizer, or pesticides. Last year, the Nobel Prize in Chemistry was awarded to these two scientists. And their study leads to a development of a technique that is called gene editing. So based on that technique, we can repair some bad genes. You know, there are many kinds of inheritable diseases, and these diseases are caused by some bad versions of genes. But using the gene editing, we can replace the bad genes with good copies of the genes. So this is a very promising technique for improving human health. So they are biologists, but they win the Nobel Prize in Chemistry. So at the beginning, I said modern biology is disciplinary. So you can tell biology and chemistry, they are combined to solve biological phenomena. So we are also using this kind of technique to improve crops. In addition to developing new cultivars of crops to improve crop production, we also have scientists like Professor Zhang. His technique led to water saving in agriculture. We know that human use of water, including mainly water used in agriculture, and indeed 70% of water used by human beings is in agriculture. So his research can lead to this large amount of water be saved, and we know that there's water deficit in our Earth for human in many areas, including mainland China as well as other places. Now in Hong Kong, the government is promoting also local agriculture, mainly to produce vegetables and other kind of crops. But in Hong Kong, agriculture, the future of agriculture will be more likely about indoor farming. And we also call this vertical farming, like this. By this kind of indoor vertical farming, we can produce more using the limited amount of land. So this kind of indoor farming also need to use some modern technologies. Our department is also building a small greenhouse using those kind of solar panels to use the sunlight, convert sunlight into electrical powers, so we can use the sunlight basically for the cooling and also for warming of greenhouses needed for controlled temperature for this kind of vegetable production. So if this kind of indoor farmings will be developed in Hong Kong in near future, then different kind of modern technology will also be applied. And these including, for example, imaging analysis to manage farms so that farmers can optimize irrigation and optimal fertilizer application. And also it tells farmer when they need to use some pest control measurement, as well as other kind of integrative management of crop production. So that can produce these kind of vegetables using less resources and less chemicals, and make the food safer and more helpful for improving our health conditions. So hopefully my presentation can make you more interested in studying biology. And we also hope that you will be the next generation of biologists who can improve the quality of our life. Okay, so if you have any question, you can, you're welcome to ask, or you can type your question in the chat box. Okay, if no question, that's it for my presentation. And thank you for your attention and participation. Oh, I do have a question. Let me open. Oh, the question is admission scores. Sorry, I don't know the admission scores for our program, but it will be the same as for admission scores for other programs in this science. So all students will be admitted to the science to science first, and then a year later, you will choose a major. So the admission score for the biology programs should be the same as for other programs in science faculty. Other question? Any other question? Okay, so thank you for your attention. Okay, goodbye.